Hello, fellow movie fans. Welcome to another edition of the ONETA Movie Show, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, we are your hosts, Evan Davies, and our favorite internet bald man, Dylan Davies, is also here as well. And today, you need to remember, Satan is good. Satan is our pal, because it is time for the cult classic series to continue with one of my absolute fun favorites, The Burbs, starring Tom Hanks from 1989. General thoughts off the bat. How'd you feel watching this again?
I mean, I always enjoy watching it. I usually watch it like once every couple of years or so, and it's always entertaining. It's not a fantastic movie or anything, but it's always entertaining.
So it was interesting to me from a general thought right off the bat, always, and as always, we should do this right away. Spoilers to anyone who hasn't watched the movie, but the movie's from 1989. It's older than legitimately I am, so it's 35 years old. So,
Yeah.
like, we gotta be cognizant of those things. I'm not saying this is a cinematic masterpiece, but they really don't do anything wrong in this movie. They really don't do anything that you're like, what are you
No.
doing? Why would you do that? That's a stupid choice. That's a poor choice.
Yeah. The Sometimes I go back and watch old like Siskel and Ebert reviews that they
Interesting.
did for their show, and both of them gave it like I think they both gave it 2 out of 4 stars, but like they didn't complain about it at all. They just said, there's not much going on really.
I could understand that. I give them 2 stars of a review, but no, I'm just playing. I'm just fucking around with this Holy Bird.
They're also not like comedy. Yeah, exactly.
They are.
They're a little stuck up.
They're doing their classic glasses at the brim of their nose, looking over, being like, "What are you doing?" kind of thing.
Yeah, I, I really like them, but yeah, I definitely admit that comedy's not their genre.
No, no, that doesn't seem like their kind of thing whatsoever. But that's, I mean, again, stay in your wheelhouse. Know what you're doing. Know what you're liking. Go from there. But frankly, I've generalized thought. I was watching this late at night once again. Just we completely tore the house apart, making sure everything was unpacked outside the few things that we can't unpack yet. And I was like, you know what, screw it. Let's just watch. Like, I gotta watch it. We're watching the Burbs right now, and I kept writing positive stuff, and I was like, am I just being too biased? And then I kept watching. And I was like, I'm not really seeing any This is a well-made movie. There's no real problems with this
Yeah,
movie, and what's crazy is some of the really smart notes we've seen in all the movies that we've watched. The Burbs has that. A lot of good callbacks and moments, a lot of little things that they set up that you're just like, okay, they're setting up suburbia. But yet,
yeah, and it's a group of talented people, so it can't be that bad.
right. So it's just generally speaking a very fun experience to go through. From the opening bit, it's what I think the only thing I would maybe criticize, and I personally like the tone of the film, is there's a few times where it swings from horror to comedy like really fast, and there's not a lot of moment for it to breathe at times. Um, but right off the bat, you're getting a phenomenal horror intro, which is
But
really fun and
it's
sets a tone.
it's like a perfect gateway horror movie for like
Yes.
younger teenagers. It's perfect for that tone. Like it's never too scary. It's never like outrageously graphic or anything.
No.
It's just entertaining.
It's just an entertaining Tom Hanks comedy from the 80s before Tom Hanks became the drama actor of our
Yeah,
time, essentially. People of our age don't realize Tom Hanks was a comedic actor far before he was, Mr. Drama winning an Oscar, so to speak. So,
yeah, and he was the year before he's nominated for an Oscar and big.
and that's the thing. It's like he's coming on a string of stuff where I mean, one of Dad's favorite shows of all time was Bosom Buddies, which is a comedy series, and then in the last 5 years of the '80s, he's got Money Pit, Dragnet, Big, The Burbs. Like he's doing comedy. He's not doing
Yeah.
these big dramatic
Splash.
pieces. Splash, another great one of an example. So you're seeing a lot of fun comedic notes from Tom Hanks, and you wonder why he's so good in all these little pieces. His timing is phenomenal, and it starts right off the bat with an intro that just sets a tone for it being weird. And I love that
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense why suburbs are kind of creepy for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's all the boomers who grew up in the suburbs making their movies in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're just pulling from their childhood and their fears in childhood.
Absolutely. I think we're going to do a little bit more popcorn style on this one, but I have to say on that intro. Intro is done by ILM, and it's abundantly clear that it's ILM because it looks great. The music is by Jerry Goldsmith, which also the music slaps in this
It's
movie.
awesome. He's always great.
He's always great, but when you're looking for it and you're intentional, like you and I have watched this movie what 10, 15 times at the very least. I've probably seen this movie 20 plus times.
Yeah, I've probably seen it around 10. Yeah.
But because you're not viewing it first time and you're viewing it as a repeat watcher, you can tell that it's miniature work when you're really paying attention on the intro. But it's not so abundantly clear if you're just watching it first time that like, wow, this is miniatures right here. You have to really be paying
And
attention to
it,
those small details.
and it's clearly universal black backlot.
Oh yeah.
Like so clear.
Oh, abundantly clear. Like they're all. It is insane how confined this movie is, though. Which really,
Yeah,
it's good. It's good horror aspects of it, which is so funny
I
to
was
think.
yeah, I was thinking about that while I was watching. I was like, I think they only show inside three houses the entire time.
Yeah,
It's pretty. It's like a studio's greatest dream. Like shoot it all on a backlot with a small cast and a small crew.
I mean that is so well confined. There's not even a scene of them going to the grocery store or them doing something that would try to set up the more of the suburban feel. They're on.
Yeah,
They're in houses and porches and backyards that are barren. There's not a whole lot of of fluff in this movie whatsoever. It's straight to the point, very good at confining you to an area, and it's a good tenet for horror in any way, shape, or form that you slice it because horror is confined. Horror is not huge, horror is confined.
yeah,
And for them to be, like you said, on a straight up backlot where you're like, huh, wonder where you are right now, and you can see that vague hill in the background, you're like, wonder where we are. Um,
yeah,
from time to time. Or when you're on top of Rumsfeld's house and you can see Los Angeles in the background, and you're like, nice. But it's like
yeah,
low buildings, low building stretch of Los Angeles, not like the skyscrapers or anything downtown. It's just funny and interesting to see. But I love that the intro to this immediately sets the tone as this is a horror movie with comedy in it, but yet it's far more of a comedy with horror in it. So it balances the tone out pretty
yeah,
well. I just find that tremendous.
yeah. I don't even think little kids would find it scary.
No, this is not a scary movie. Um, it plays with elements of horror, but it's not scary. It's just fun. With it, I would call this the spooky level, where it like, ooh, okay, that's that.
Spooky, not scary.
Yes, we're playing with horror elements, but it's not actually scary in the slightest. And it's a very fun thing. I really like the sharp cuts a lot of times to different tones. Um, when they shift in scene, sometimes it's a little zany for me, but I do like the fact that they cut in and out of horror a lot, which is just generally interesting and fun. Uh, but they set the tone up in this movie so well within the first 5 minutes. You're getting this darker, creepier music. You're getting, Tom Hanks just like out in a bathrobe, being like, "What the fuck is going on in my neighborhood? What is wrong?" And he's just like glazed over suburban, and it's perfect. And then it's just sharp cut to light, bright. Here we go. Here's the neighborhood, and you get into really petty neighborhood drama, and I
Yeah.
love it so much.
I mean, that is what the suburbs really are.
Oh, it's petty drama. That's why I would never, in an ideal world, never want to live in a suburb. I'd love to live somewhere rural or on the fringe of a suburb. That's fine. Where I'm like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
surrounded by trees. There's not a whole lot of people around me. That's fine. I just don't want direct neighbors. Um, Whereas, like, part of the city, the fun of the city is you get a lot of the excitement of people around you, but you don't. Everyone just kind of does their own things. You don't have to deal with stuff that you don't want to deal with. So you're like, okay, there's something there, but it's the same reason I would never want to be a part of a homeowners association. Fuck that.
Oh,
The biggest,
yeah.
one of the biggest shams in the fucking world is a homeowners association. HOAs are bullshit, and you saw it here first, folks. But like, this sets up the tone of especially an HOA community so well. Oh, are they gonna do anything about their lawn? Like everyone's concerned about their lawn and how their house looks, and the Klopex, um, how their lawn looks. Why don't they have any new paint on their house? Why are the screens coming off the windows? All that kind of bullshit. And it's just a really fun, enjoyable, relatable bullshit where you go back home to your parents or your extended family for the holidays, and they start talking about all the shit in their neighborhood that they didn't like, and you're like, we care about this? Why?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of like mundane, the mundane reality of life in the suburbs.
Very much so. And it's enjoyable. I mean, right off the bat, you get the classic neighbor gag with the old man Walter letting his dog go shit in Rumsfield's lawn. And
Well, before that, you get Rumsfield's intro, which is just iconic. I love it.
I did write this. There is a great intro to every character, which is very,
Yeah.
very smart. None of them are, they are all fit to character. You meet Walter, the old man, and he's very much just like, you know, put upon Walter, wants everything prim, perfect with his toupee and his dumb little show dog, and like that's what he wants. And then you get the heavy.
Hey, that's a famous dog as well.
Is it?
2 years later. Yeah, 2 years later, it's in Silence of the Lambs.
No fucking way. That's the same dog?
Yeah.
Hey. Well. Interesting choice.
So he has to deal with Walter in one movie and then a serial killer in another.
Adore that. Absolutely adore that. But like you said, the intros on all these characters. Oh, hi, babe. Got a smoothie. All the intros are phenomenal. And they're all set in tone. The first time you see Tom Hanks, he's very, you see Ray and he's just like, this is weird, I don't like it. But he's kind of in that middle ground that he has to play in. You see Rumsfeld, the metal music comes in or the heavy rock music comes in, and he's old man Vietnam veteran being like, at the fucking flag.
He's got the shades on, the puffer vest with no shirt underneath, the shorts, and then the like combat boot. It's a great look.
Tremendous look to set the tone for that guy. And he's in his more foo-foo pajamaed, wife is right behind him.
Yeah.
And Bonnie. You get Walter's over there being, Mr. Curmudgeon with a toupee on. He wants his perfect lawn and his perfect everything. And then you get Corey Feldman's character, Ricky, and he's just...
that type, that's for sure.
He's just an idiot. But he's classic teen idiot of the 80s, and it's great. I love
How old is he supposed to be?
Ricky? I want to
Yeah,
say like 18, 17.
because at one point he mentions that his parents aren't home, so he still lives at home with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's really hard to tell because he's painting the house as well.
Yeah. So you're like, why are you? To me, it's giving failed teen. It's giving like 1920ish almost. Because he's adult enough to be right on the fringe of like. There's that scene later on, which is another scene we have to talk about. That's tremendous. Of he's just drinking beers with one of the neighborhood guys, who's like
Yeah,
30 years older than he is, and you're like, "What the fuck you
yeah,
doing?" Um,
smoking and drinking.
yeah, he's just smoking and drinking with the neighborhood guys, and he's like 20 or 30 years younger than them, and it's just like, huh,
Yeah, and
okay,
apparently Tom Hanks was kind of reluctant to do this part because he didn't want to be the dad yet. He still wanted to be viewed as like the younger type of actor
he
where he
is
can
in
pull
that.
off.
He's in that weird transition area. You're correct.
Yeah,
It's
because he apparently he even like after he accepted, he still was trying to get rid of the son role in it. Like he just was totally against it for some reason.
he is in that weird middle ground, and as is Carrie Fisher. People don't realize how young Carrie
Yeah,
Fisher is in this movie still, because Carrie Fisher did Star Wars at like what 20. She
yeah,
was
she's really young in that. And
so.
then
You're
I think
looking at 12 years later. She's only 32, but yet she has like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old son. And
yeah, and a year or two before this is when Harry met Sally, which is like after Star Wars, her next big thing, and then there's this.
yeah. And so you have this interesting dichotomy of two actors that really aren't old enough to have that son in a traditional
Yeah,
setting, and they're in that transition period. I remember seeing a video of an interview with Michael Caine where Michael Caine got a script and he was more self-aware, and he's just like he was like, I was on that fringe and I wasn't getting as many action parts anymore, and I'm reading a script and I'm like, oh, that's a lot for me to do, and they're like, no, we want you to play the father role now, and he's just like, oh, I'm in that stage of
yeah.
my career now, kind of
Well,
thing.
yeah, you see it a lot more with actresses rather than actors. Like, because once you get typecast as the mom, you're the mom. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's no really going back for you. Whereas, because that's why I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that Tom Hanks is fighting against it almost.
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's a good showing of Hollywood typecasting and Hollywood double standards. Is that
Yeah,
women can play far above, but once they get to there, they are there. They can't be young and hot anymore.
yeah,
They can't be go out with the girls. They can't do that kind of stuff anymore. They are mom, especially at that time. Now, I mean, it's getting better, but
yeah,
it's still
a
not perfect.
little.
It's better. It's light years from where it was, but it's still nowhere near where it needs to be. I think is the best way to
Hmm.
say it. Whereas like Tom Hanks, yeah, he's like just fighting to be like, no, get the son out of here. I'm young. I'm fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, at this point, I mean, he probably could have gotten away with it. Like, he has enough clout at that point. Because not only was he, a successful actor, but he's in movies that make a lot of
money.
money.
Yeah. Well, he picks smart projects to go into. There's another one that it's a different vibe for him, but it's still very much taking advantage of his comedic chops. Um,
Yeah, I was thinking about his character, and I was like, if this wasn't Tom Hanks, he'd be really unlikable.
Absolutely. He
He's like, he's like so short with his wife. He's always yelling at everyone. I'm like, if this wasn't Tom Hanks, this would be a disaster.
he's so kind of strung out on life, and then he's dealing with
Mm,
this bullshit issue of neighbor.
yeah,
He's dealing with a bullshit issue that when it first starts, this is why I think the movie's really successful. You know there's something fucked up about that house immediately, but then for the whole next hour of the film, you don't get a lot of that. You just get, oh, they're weird. They're different.
yeah,
They're not
yeah.
murderers. They're just different.
Yeah, I wrote down their circumstantial evidence is pretty weak, actually.
It's incredibly weak. It's incredibly weak. And that's another thing that, pointing out towards your point of if it's not Tom Hanks' character super unlikable, is the tone of the movie sets it up that there's something wrong, and because he's so strung out in life and he's willing to accept maybe shit's fucked up, that it works. Because if this is a different actor who's not very likable, and he's just being short with his family, and he's kind of the neighborhood straight man, everyone else plays off of him, he doesn't play off of others, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it works as well, frankly.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone around him is, well, not Carrie Fisher, but everyone else around him is such a character that is like, if you don't have a good straight man in a comedy, like, it's blown from the start.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean the straight man can't be funny himself, but you have to
No. Yeah, Tom Hanks is great in this.
You have to have the tent pole for everybody else, for the tent to stand up. You can't just say, okay, bunch of funny people, all characters. You know, like
another thing that I noticed in this rewatch was like 90% of the jokes are visual jokes. It's not like a Judd Apatow movie where it's just all dialogue based humor.
Yes.
It's like almost everything is a visual joke. And a lot of it's not even commented on. It's just there for the audience to notice.
It was crazy how I started noticing the same thing. And it's the first time I ever picked up on a lot of stuff because you're like, that's funny. But then you're like, oh, wait, they're not doing a whole lot of dialogue all the time.
Yeah, this isn't like Airplane or something where it's like the dialogue is funny.
Yeah.
This is like the scenarios and the characters are funny. And it's all... like the perfect example of it is Joe Dante when he does all those zoom-ins on the characters when they first see the first Klopek.
Yeah.
And then he does all the zoom-ins and then the last one's on the dog.
Yep.
It's great.
It's just dumb and it's fun and it works well. And I think the best character in the show, outside of Rumsfeld, because I do think that's probably the best one, I do like the fact that the neighborhood nuisance is his best friend that he's incredibly antagonistic with, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
And when you first...
Well, apparently him and Tom Hanks did not get along, apparently.
Interesting. Okay. It shows. It comes out in the right way. You can always tell he's annoyed. I was gonna say,
you can kind of tell that it's like, yeah, there seems to be real animosity.
It's just funny because when you first meet Art, neighborhood kook, he has a gun and he's hunting crows. And you're like...
yeah, and he's got a branch as camouflage.
Yeah, he has one branch around his neck as camouflage. You know, raised dogs out in the neighborhood, out in the backyard, and he's just going through his neighbor's backyard trying to shoot crows. You're like, what?
Yeah. I when I was watching, I was like, I understand why Tom Hanks kind of hates him, because like, not I don't mean Tom Hanks, I mean the character he's playing.
Yes.
Like, his character would be so annoying to have as a friend.
Extremely.
It'd be like every day would be like, oh God, just shut the fuck up.
Just stop. Well, the series of hijinks starts right there, where he's got a rifle, he's trying to shoot, and just from inside, you just see Tom Hanks just go, Art's got a gun, and he completely bails on his conversation with his wife, and he just starts sprinting outside, and Art's trying to shoot the crow, misses, takes off the ceramic owl's head, then shoots again, hits a house, then shoots again, barely misses Tom Hanks, takes out his light, and he's like, oh, what are you guys eating in there? And just invites himself in to come to eat.
Yeah.
No apologies, no sympathy, nothing.
That's the one scene in this movie that I absolutely hate, is because the chewing sounds in that are unbearable to me. I hate chewing sounds, and that he is just chomping
He's
for
chomping.
days.
He's comedically going at it. And if that doesn't bother you, you can find the humor in it. But if the chewing sounds bother you, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
But I like how you're always moving forward in this movie. There's not a whole lot of bullshit.
But that scene where they're eating breakfast is all I think actually has the best visual joke in the movie. It's when Carrie Fisher passes him and he grabs the bowl that she's carrying, and then it turns out to be dog food.
Yes, I noticed that.
Absolutely no one comments on it. He just makes a like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's great.
He's just being served food after food after food item, and then he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna take this," as she's walking by and doesn't offer it to him, and it's the first time because I'm paying attention critically. I'm like, "Oh shit, he just ate dog food. That's hilarious. Like that's great." And I'm laughing, and at a part that I normally wouldn't laugh at because of that. And you're moving forward in such a great way. Like I have that so much. Like there's a lot of clever dumb jokes in this that if you're not paying attention, you're just like, oh okay. But if you're paying attention, you're like, that's a nice little touch there. It's a nice little nod. Same deal.
You can definitely tell Joe Dante grew up on like the Looney Tunes, classic Warner Brothers Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's so many just visual jokes in every single scene.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because he also made that Looney Tunes live action movie. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
In the early 2000s.
Yeah, with Brendan Fraser, I believe, and Jenna Elfman or whatever her name is.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since it came out. I'm kind of curious to rewatch it.
I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through. And I love the Looney Tunes, so that says a lot about the quality that I thought the film was.
Yeah.
Looney Tunes are in Looney Tunes or Space Jam. That's it. They're an original Looney Tunes or they're a Space Jam. That's it.
But Space Jam's also not good.
Space Jam is a cinematic masterpiece that has never been duplicated ever. Michael Jordan is the finest actor of our times.
Oh yeah, of course. Should have won the Oscar.
He's the GOAT in basketball and he's the GOAT in acting, and that's how this shit works.
Maybe they'll revoke it from the person who won that year because it's Kevin Spacey.
Even better.
They can just give him an honorary one.
Honorary Oscar to Michael Jordan for Space Jam. That fits right there. But just the clever jokes in here. I call them clever dumb jokes because when you look at it, you're just like, it's kind of dumb, but it's clever in the way they're all set up. Because
it's almost like they're just kind of like coming up with it on the spot,
and there's spontaneity to it.
Yeah, it's like kids just making shit up as they go when they're making a movie.
It's fun.
It's great.
There is a relatability and a spontaneity to all the recording in this movie, where everything is very much go.
I think part of it is also they started filming like I think it was like the week of a writer's strike happening, so it's like they didn't have any writers on set.
So they just had to go and do it?
Yeah, that might be part of the reason.
That, to me, makes it even more impressive, because when you look at this, I'm just looking forward through the movie. Is there really a lot of fat in this film that needs to be cut, where you're like, I don't think we need that?
It's like an hour and 50 minutes. It's great.
And it's tight. There's not a lot of wasted motion. There's no wasted shot. It's just, hey, we're recording a movie and we're having some fun.
Yeah. There's a couple unnecessary scenes where it doesn't necessarily put the plot forward at all, but I'm totally fine. Like the nightmare scene. It's not really needed, but it's fun.
Actually, I would argue that's one of the most necessary things in this movie. Truly.
Really?
Yes.
In terms of plot?
Yes.
Okay.
But we'll get to that, because that is obviously that sequence is part of my favorite sequence in this movie. I'm wearing it on my on my chest right now. But like we said, there's not a lot of fat in this movie. The first time you meet the Klopex is right after you meet Art. And Art and Ray are just egging each other on in bullshit suburban fashion where they're like, oh, we don't want to come on too strong. They should come to us. All this kind of stuff. And the intro when Courtney Gaines, who perfect choice of Malachi from fucking Children of the Corn, coming out as the kid. I had a coworker.
Also the bully in Back to the Future for that one scene.
Yeah, I will say when I was working at a grocery store, and because it's the only ginger actor that the guy could think of, the guy said I looked like Courtney Gaines. I'm like, so he has red hair and I have red hair. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't think we look anything alike. But okay, good for you.
Yeah.
I was like, you have observational skills, I guess. Congrats. They're not good, but congrats.
Yeah, there's not many gingers.
Nah. But when he comes out, right when he pulls tight on everyone's face with the dramatic, ridiculous music, so good, so good.
Yeah. Yeah, Jerry Goldsmith definitely lends a helping hand for sure.
This again, we talked about this in a former episode. This gives me Back to the Future vibes. This is a small movie that I have to make feel big, and the music does it, because if it'd be very easy to look and say we're on the street in the neighborhood, we're in the same place all the time. Even when we go through a walk in the neighborhood, we're in the same little cul-de-sac of 5 or 6 houses. We don't go further than that. We don't show anything else. And it's such a tightly confined thing that if you don't have that music to make it more dramatic and make it bigger, it's a really easy, well, this is small and low budget or whatever you want to call it. But because it has those pieces to it, it makes it feel larger and grander than it is. And then when the kid is scared because the entire neighborhood's scared, he goes inside. They go up to knock. Naturally, one of the floorboards breaks on Art. And it's just like, I'm not paying for that. Or Ray's just like, I'm not paying for that. He's just like, I'm not paying for that. Who said we should pay for it? We should sue them. It's just like, you're going onto someone's property unwarranted, and you're like, no, we should sue them. That's their fault. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And they knock on the door, and the address is 669. So naturally, the 9 flips to a 6, and I'm like, beautiful little joke there. Just dumb and fun. And then they're attacked by bees because a hornet's nest or like a bee's nest falls on them off the porch. It's like great physical comedy there. There's so many little comedy notes throughout that I really appreciate in this movie.
Like in that one scene, just count the amount of visual jokes there are. There's the 666. There's the floorboard breaking.
Mm-hmm.
There's the bees. You get Rumsfeld running with the hose and then like falling because of it. And then you get them being attacked by the bees.
Yeah,
it's like 5 jokes in one scene that are 100% visual.
And and then you also have just like Ricky in the background just laughing his ass off at them with Ray's son, who's just like, oh god, this is my dad, and so you get an extra little layer of joke because it's a like secondhand embarrassment through family. And you're like, oh god, this sucks. Like, yeah, it's extremely efficient, but it's joke after joke after joke. It just keeps coming, and it's great. And as we progress within the next 5 to 10 minutes, we get another scene that I absolutely adore. Is they start the night, and Ray's just like, oh, I'm going to take... He's arguing with his wife again, because that's what Ray does, apparently, is... I think they're trying to really go for suburban nagging wife, and I don't think it comes off that way.
No. Yeah, I think that is what they're going for, but yeah. Especially because Carrie Fisher is so likable.
It's Carrie Fisher, dude.
Yeah, I mean, she's great.
And, I mean, it's our beloved princess. And so we, like, And she's playing a voice of reason. She's not playing, well, Ray, I want you to do this, and Ray, I want you to do that. She's playing a voice of reason, and she's one of the most
Yeah,
naturally
she's
likable
probably
actresses of her
the
time. What do you
yeah
expect?
she's probably the most reasonable character in the movie.
By far,
Has to,
she's
has to
the
be,
only
yeah.
reasonable person in this movie, outside of maybe
Yeah,
Bonnie, I
that's true.
guess. But like, she's the only reasonable person in this movie, and to them be fighting. I even loved when Art, to progress the movie, Art comes up to the window and he knocks on the window, and they're writing down answers for Jeopardy, and you see a nice moment with them where you can see, oh, this is a loving couple. They actually do care about each other. They spend time with each other, and then Art ruins it, and they're both just like, motherfucker, like, why?
Yeah, Carrie Fisher plays her hate for art pretty well.
Oh yeah. Um, but I just love that you get two scenes at night really quickly that I super appreciate. In that you get, is the story with Skip before or after the scope? I think it's after, if I recall correctly. Um,
One second.
because that's tremendous as well. That's another great scene.
Okay, the Skip story becomes before
The scope.
the garbage beatdown.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we get a story of Skip, the local ice cream fountain guy, who back in 50s or 60s, when Art and Ray are kids in the same town, very much trying to say this is suburbia. Nobody leaves; they just move. Nobody leaves the town; they just
Hmm.
move to a different part of town. Rick Ducommun's cooking throughout that entire thing, where he's telling a really good story that you could be engrossed into if you are part of the local culture or not. It's just an engrossing story. He's telling Ricky, you know, first of all, I love that before he even starts it, he just insults Ray with like neighborly knowledge, really hitting home again the suburban feel, where he's like, "Oh, he comes over to my house, to smoke cigars. His wife does not. Don't let him know I told you that." Oh, hey Ray,
Hey,
hi,
Ray.
hi, and
Yeah.
like, so he's just being an asshole. He's just being shitty to be shitty. And my in-laws once had a neighbor that was kind of like that. That I was just like, you can't ever say something nice or serious, can you? You just have to. You just have to get a dig. You just have to get the dig, don't you? But it's certainly something in which um, it's just funny that happens. You see, Ricky's just drinking a beer with Art, and you're like, what does Art do? How is he employed? How does he make money? Why does he? How does he live life?
Maybe maybe he's living off his wife.
Probably. But he's just drinking a beer with a kid who's at least 20, if not 30 years younger than he is, which is fucking absurd and ridiculously fun. But he starts telling the story, Skip, and how Skip, he's in his 40s with a family, but he's making ice cream fountain drinks at a classic soda fountain style with a family and shit, and he just loses it and one day kills his family with an ice pick, and you're like, holy shit, like, and you can see Art's freaked out, and
Yeah,
it puts him in that mold of, oh wait, crazy shit does happen in the suburbs. So even though that story doesn't have anything to do with our current characters, it's very much planting the seeds of paranoia inside Ray's brain of like, I gotta worry about this.
and that's definitely like a suburb thing. Like everyone knows the one story that just goes around town and stays a legend the
Oh,
entire
it's the
town.
everyone knows the local legend. Everybody knows the local town goof. Everybody knows the characters of your town. I mean, hell, there were local people in our town that we grew up with that even if you never saw them or never met the people, you're like, oh, I know that person. I know that person because of the local legend, so to speak.
Yeah.
I still remember tales about Hard Hat Harry. Remember him?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's the colloquial town legend, but it was unfortunate because it was clearly fueled by kids who didn't know how to be sensitive. But there was a black gentleman in our town who was homeless, but he I think worked in construction at one time or another, but he always had his hard hat on all the time, and he'd kind of just wander downtown. And some people figured out his name was Harry or could have been Harry. So it's just like Hard Hat Harry, and you just kind of see him wandering around town from time to time. People are like, oh shit, that's Hard Hat Harry, and I'm like, I think I spoke 2 words to him one time because I saw him on the street next to me. I was like, oh hey, hey bud, hey, like nice as could be, very kind gentleman, but like everybody knew Hard Hat Harry in town. Everybody knew the panhandling lady that didn't want a job. And tried to deceive the entire town. Like everybody knows those people. So it's relatable to see where we're going and how we do things. And that story sets it up perfectly. It freaks Ray out, and then again they go back outside after the Jeopardy scene that we already talked about with a night vision scope with Rumsfeld to look at the fucking house. And you're like,
yeah,
this is absurd. I just love the joke. I love the dialogue joke of, night. I think we're just getting a little hand. Night vision scopes. He's like, "What's next? We're gonna tap their phones." He's like, "That could be arranged." And you're just like, "This is so suburban that we have a Vietnam vet with like army friends," and he's just like, "We can tap their phone. Why not? We can do anything we want. I run this."
The funny thing is that Rumsfeld is like the ideas man, but he never actually does any of the work himself.
No. And he just shits on everyone.
Yeah.
I love Bruce Dern's character in this film. So
Bruce Dern's great.
Because he's just a well-mannered prick. It's funny that he's in his yard, he does the suburban shit, but he thinks everyone's a pansy. He just thinks anything that's not exactly how he thinks it should be is an asshole and is wrong. And it's so typical of that. It's the stereotype of the army guy during that time.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to play with. But he's bringing out night vision scopes to spy on his neighbors. And if Ray questions them, he just thinks he's a fucking pansy and just like, oh, what? He's not man enough to do this kind of stuff? And you're like, what are we talking about here?
Art also does that with when he's trying to get Tom to go up to the Klopek's house and knock on the door. He's like calling him a bitch and stuff. Yeah.
It's just so stupid because another thing that this movie does really well without trying to do it is really highlighting toxic masculinity at its finest.
Oh, yeah.
Where Ray's just trying to be a reasonable person. He's just like, I don't really want to go talk to them. And then just through, you're going to look like a coward in front of everybody. And he's just like, and he still isn't really phased. He's like, you're going to be a coward in front of your son. Your son. Yeah. And he's just like, all right, fine, fuck you. Like, I'm doing this. I will do it for you. But I just love these pieces. It's so great that they keep going. And you get that night vision scope where, Courtney Gaines' character comes out, beats the shit out of the trash with the stick, and you're like, what the fuck's going on?
That scene will forever, like, burned in my memory. Like, that's the scene that I always think of when I think of.
I think of that one. I think of the scene when Ray's looking out his back window into their backyard, and these 3 black cloaks just, like... Yeah. Shoveling and hammering away, trying to dig holes, and you're like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, I love that shot. It's great.
It's a great shot. And this is all leading to Walter goes missing. So then Walter just goes missing, and they find his dog. You're like, okay. They break into Walter's house, because why wouldn't you?
Well, first we should probably mention that the garbage scene.
Oh, I do need to.
Which is like directly before the Walter part.
Right. So it is a tremendous scene. It's one of my favorite quotes because you got the intellectual guy, garbage man, and you got the classic I'm gonna work with my hands kind of guy, garbage man. I've been in this job for 35 years. I'm gonna retire at this job. This is what I do, garbage man, right? But I just love one of my favorite quotes in the movie because it has nothing to do with the plot. It has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever outside of just being a joke. He's like, you should definitely come. He's a great healer. And he's like, and I'm a great bowler. Plus, Wednesday night, we're taking on Roselli Plumbing. Like,
Yeah.
you understand that garbage man within one line. Where like,
Yeah, that's true.
he just looks pissy, and he's just like, fuck you and your crystals and your healing voodoo man. I'm a great bowler, and we're taking on Roselli Plumbing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's the point.
And you get Dick Miller to play him.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's such a type.
Yes.
And he's a Joe Dante regular. So, but yeah, it's great.
It's just fun to get it. I just love, and I'm a great bowler. Like,
yeah,
it's such a hardy boomer thing to say, where like, oh, it could be like this. Well, I can do that, and you're like, oh god, like it's such a dad quote, wholeheartedly. And I can do this, and I can do this, but who fucking cares? And it's so dismissive without having to insult somebody else by insulting them by not mentioning it. It's just like, oh, I'm comparing his healing ability to me being a bowler. Like,
yeah,
it's so fun. but Rumsfeld and Art are digging through trash. They jump into the trash can or the trash truck doing shit, and you're like, oh god, like what is happening?
The whole scene also has a great payoff. I've never noticed this before, but when Walter arrives back at home at the very end,
yeah,
there's still trash in the street. I love it.
Again, that was something I really noticed about this, and what I loved was all these are building. That's a great callback to that, in that there's no wasted motion or wasted joke ever. Anything that could be a joke is a joke, and it's so appreciated, because as we're moving forward, we're starting to get little tidbits throughout. There's plenty of fun scenes that we could discuss, but I think really the dream sequence is where we need to go. They're somehow convinced.
Well, I just wanted to, the one thing in Walter's house I wanted to say is, who the hell keeps cookies in the fridge? Is that a thing?
Old people put everything in the fridge, and I don't get it.
Well, yeah, that was the first time I ever noticed that Art pulls the cookies out of the fridge. I was like, who does that? That's fucking weird as hell. And then Corey Feldman just comes in and smashes the plate.
Yeah. No joke. I'm not kidding you. This morning we woke up and Ab saw a TikTok of someone putting bread in the fridge, and she just goes, who puts bread in their fridge? And I literally went, your mother does. And she went, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it is an old person thing.
And I was just like, this is what old people do, man. And yes, if my mother-in-law's watching this, love you. You're not old, you're vintage. However, this is what vintage people do. They put bread in the fridge. For what reason? I don't know. They put everything in the fridge. I don't know why. Why does every apple need to be in the fridge? It doesn't. Why does every lime or lemon need to be in the fridge? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Why does half the shit you eat need to be in the fridge when it doesn't need to be in the fridge? And it should be readily accessible at room temperature to eat. It drives me insane. But yeah, or we froze Girl Scout cookies. And I'm like, what the fuck are we freezing Girl Scout cookies for? They're good for a year.
Yeah, but that actually makes sense because people like to enjoy them. So, it kind of makes sense with the Thin Mint thing. I don't personally do it, but I'm just saying I know people enjoy that. But, I've never heard of cookies or bread in the fridge. That's just weird.
It just makes no sense. It bothers me to no end.
Nonsensical.
My entire extended family, my married into family, does it, and it drives me insane. They're like, oh, there's some bread in the fridge. I'm like, why is the bread in the fridge? Why? bread, no fridge. Bread, counter. That is where it belongs. It's the same thing as half the time they'll put the butter dish in the fridge, and I'm like, You are actively making it harder for us to use the butter on this bread. Why the fuck are we doing this, man? Like, come on. Insanity though. But they break into Walter's house. They find him missing. Slips a note into the door, which I love. And it's a ransom note, but it's like he tries to say it really nicely, and then he just like, fuck, he's just, Walter, I have your dog, and slips the note in the door, because they found the dog in there. But it all leads to this dream sequence. And it's preempted to, what is Art doing with Ray? Anytime Art's around, bad thing is happening, which I adore.
Yeah.
And he has a book on demonology, and he's like, I'm telling you, your neighbors are Satanists. They're Satanists, I'm telling you this.
Yeah, it's
and
the theory and practice of demonology.
It's tremendous, and I would read that book in a heartbeat. But I just love, I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal. Which is why when I found this shirt at Comic-Con, it was like 5 to 10 minutes before the floor closed. And I literally did the Fry shut up and take my money meme. Where I saw it and I just went, is that in my size? I literally went, shut up and take my money. And I just handed my credit card to the guy. And everyone's like, why do you want this? And I was like, it's from the Burbs. And he's like, you are one of 4 people who figured that out today. I was like, that's one of my favorite movies. I absolutely adore that movie. There's no way I'm not leaving without that shirt. And it's one of my favorite shirts. I adore this shirt. Because it looks fucking rad. And props to whoever made it. But he's chanting and then getting Ray into this whole thing where he's in this weird spot. He's going to bed glazed over, and he just keeps flicking through and finding horror movie after horror movie. It's fun to see the Exorcist clip after we just covered the Exorcist a couple episodes ago. That was fun.
The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw 2.
Yep. And wasn't there a third one that was in there? Oh, it was like a demonic sacrifice scene, which I don't know what movie that's from, if it is from a movie.
It's something with Peter Fonda, but I can't remember. But yeah, it's like just like a classic satanic panic movie, really.
Ah, okay. And he goes to bed.
Oh wait, Tom Hanks has a great line reading too. When he's in bed with Carol.
Yeah.
And then she's like, so our neighbor is sacrificing Walter to the devil. He's like, that's one of the theories, yeah. Like, you can tell how stupid it is, but he's like, well, maybe, who knows?
Again, it's very well done, and you just see Carrie Fisher. She doesn't even answer. She just goes, as a creative type whose brain wanders a lot when doing things, I have lived that moment of my life so many times in both the Tom Hanks role and the Carrie Fisher role, where like my wife who we all just saw a couple minutes ago just goes, so we're doing this because, and I'm like, because this and that. Okay, like she just knows.
Yeah.
Don't. It's not worth the engagement. But then at the same time, she has a couple of, like, everybody has that with a partner from time to time, where she has those moments and I just go, okay.
Yeah, you just accept it. You're just like, okay, I guess.
I'm straight up Token from South Park. It's cool. I'm out. Like, fuck you. You go do what you're gonna do. I do not care, because I could not be more disassociated from this than I am right now. But in the dream sequence, it's great, because you see he's on the fence the whole time. He doesn't want to accept something isn't real. And I love that they go into the supernatural, where he's getting chased through his house with a chainsaw coming through, and they nod from that, like, it's making sense. That's how dreams are constructed. You're seeing something right before you fall asleep, or recent memory, so it's creating the dream off of that. So he's being chased by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy, Leatherface, and then he's in front of his fireplace. Smoke starts billowing from it, And then it just goes to this weird shot of Carrie Fisher fading away. Oh, Ray, it's so nice for you to invite the new neighbors for a barbecue, which was also mentioned earlier in the movie. And so it's another great callback. And he ends up on a barbecue as he's going to be sacrificed as part of a satanic ritual. Then Skip shows up, and it's Art pretending to be Skip, but he's clearly like mass murderer Skip. And then it all ends with, he's being roasted on a barbecue pit, which is tremendous visually. A barbecue pit that big is tremendous. Or grill, I should say. But then, when his neighbor, one of the elder gentlemen, Reuben, the brother of the neighbors, that's crazy.
Oh, he's the best of the three. I love Reuben.
Well, that's because you are Reuben.
Yeah, that's true.
Why this and that? Who knows? Like he could not be bothered to answer a question ever, and I love it. But he's got like a stake over his head, and he's like, "Mind your own business, mind your own business." And Ray's just
I think it's supposed to be an ice pick.
I think it is the ice pick. You're correct. Another great callback then. And he's just like, "Mind your own business," and he wakes up to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood after that. And when you said, "Oh, I just don't know if we really need that scene," that is so important of a scene to me because it sets up all the doubt. Where he finally has a moment of clarity going, "What the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm supposed to be on vacation. I'm supposed to be trying to relax. And now I'm running around the neighborhood with the fucking town goof, who I don't even really like, but he's my friend, but I don't like him."
Yeah. I guess in terms of character, yes, it's very...
It just sets up the reality of, and I think it's really good because you're seeing the movie through the lens of Ray. So you're seeing it in that, well, we really haven't seen anything that confirms anything. We're just saying they're weird.
Yeah. Well, no, you haven't seen a single thing.
You've seen the scene of them digging in their backyard in big cloaks. You've seen a scene of the kid beating the shit out of the trash with a stick.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of dark imagery and like fun stuff, but it all can be easily explained.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think that scene is so wildly important because it again helps you set the frame for the audience. They're going, "Yeah, why the fuck are we doing this? Like, why? And I just love how that spun within 4 minutes. Where it's, okay, I'm out. I'm done. They try to get Ray to come outside and are beaten back like sullen children. Where Carrie Fisher's just like, he can't come out until he resembles the man I married. And Art just goes, "Kara, we don't have that kind of time." Like,
yeah, I love that line.
I adore that line. But I love how...
And Bruce Dern's reading of the, "Please, Carol, let him come out."
Yeah.
It's just like every kid knows that time in their life.
Yeah. Or they're asking the neighbor kids to come play, and the parents are like, "Not happening. No."
Yeah.
Oh, I adored that scene because it's just, again, dumb suburban fun.
Yeah.
And of course they set up some more hijinks bullshit by slipping a note underneath the Klopex door, which is great, and I adore that. But then you have but Ray's out in the backyard sleeping. Naturally, Art somehow gets into the backyard. How? Who the fuck knows? But he sneaks in the backyard, wakes Ray up as he's trying to sleep. He's like, "I'm only trying to get some goddamn sleep." Come on.
Yeah.
And then because...
That's the one scene where he really loses his shit.
He just loses his shit completely. He's just like, "I'm only laying here with my eyes closed trying to get some sleep. I'm only trying to get some goddamn sleep." Like... He's like, "You gotta goose these people. You gotta let them know. You gotta do this." And he's by slipping it. And he's just like, "What are you talking about?" But he's just like, "You slipped a note under their door?" He's like, "Yeah, I got him." And you're like... And the breakdown is tremendous. Just tremendous.
Yeah. That's a scene where if I had friends like, I would be like, "Dude, go fuck yourself. Seriously, you are the fucking worst.
Well, I also just love the physical comedy of Ray in that moment. Where he's like, now they're gonna think that I did it, and you can hear it, like, you can hear his hands hitting off his chest. He's like, you can think I did it, and you're like, it's such a great physical comedy scene. He's just like, and then they find he's just throwing a bone for the dog, and the dog comes back with a femur bone, and then it just completely changes the whole tone of the movie.
I love that plastic femur also.
Yeah.
It's great.
Just a straight up plastic femur. But I adore that part of it because, again, there's no wasted motion. It's all circumstantial bullshit evidence. But a dog digging up a bone, you're like, okay, but then he does it once, doesn't even pay attention. Does it right before he does it twice, you're like, wait, the fuck is this? And it's a great little, like, oh, I'm in the moment, I'm not noticing, but now I'm like, oh wait, that's fucked up, that's wrong. And I just love how we're constantly moving forward. We're constantly toying with the plot.
And all the little hints they give are perfectly understandable to, like, a kid, you know? Like, you're all gonna understand, like, oh, okay, something's weird, something's wrong.
Yeah, it's like, it's a big-ass bone. He's like, do you know what this is? And he's like, a bone? He's like, it's a femur bone. And I love the first thing out of his mouth after this. How do you know that?
Yeah.
He's like,
this is probably my introduction to what a femur was.
Yes, I believe same deal with me. I may have known what the femur was because of like a freak sports accident that was reported on SportsCenter. Otherwise, like I had no idea. To break your femur is like wild shit.
Well, yeah, that's crazy.
But it was interesting where he's just like, a femur happens to be a human thigh bone, Ray. And the first thing out of his mouth is, how do you know that? Like, it's just like biology 101. And because it's stupid, because it's so relatable, because how many people, ourselves included, are like, oh, I did it in college. And everyone just goes, oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
As if, you, like, because you went to college in that moment, you're infallible. He's right, but it's just hilarious, the notion of it. But I just love all that building of the scene. And then you get the wild pan in and out moment of them screaming because, like, they're like, oh, they got it from under the fence. It's Walter. They buried Walter. As if they would, like, skin him that much to the point where, like, one femur bone in, like, 2 days. It's like, yep. Perfectly dried up femur bone right here.
Yeah. Yeah, the zooming in and out is just pure Looney Tunes.
Pure bullshit. And I love it. I absolutely adore it. But you're getting all these scenes to really forward the plot. And again, you get Tom Hanks getting hit in the face with a door. And it's a real moment that happens with couples all the time that I adore. And then I love that Carrie Fisher just takes charge and she's like, okay. We're done with this. Clearly, they need to see that these people are normal, or at least not crazy. But I need to intercede. Otherwise, someone's gonna die, because of stupidity. So she marches the neighborhood, and I just love that Art's like, "Yeah, well, you guys are in there doing it." And she's like, "You're not invited. Fuck you. You're not invited.
March away."
I just love that. Even to the people he's supposed to be close with, Art is a complete nuisance.
Yeah. And I love the part where they're walking over and Rumsfeld has that plate just
like a waiter.
Yeah, I love it. For some reason that just makes me laugh so hard because it's just like ridiculous.
He's almost in full army regalia. And he's a waiter with a plate of brownies that his wife made. It's fucking ridiculous. And when they meet the Klopeks inside their home after kind of forcing their way in, and I love that the gag is, again, Rumsfeld goes through the floorboard of the porch. And he's like, there goes the goddamn brownies. It's so stupid. But again, I love that I love these constant callbacks and these constant little pushing moments of comedy. They get in, they clearly find that this place is weird. You get another good physical comedy joke of I love the awkward conversation where they have to sit there almost in silence. They say like one sentence, they're like everyone's been in that situation at least once in their life where they're like, fuck, this sucks. And then the kid brings out sardines and pretzels and Carrie Fisher's like
I wrote down, even if they weren't killers, they'd still be psycho.
oh yeah.
So they serve coffee, sardines, and pretzels.
Yeah.
What combo?
But I just love that Carrie Fisher's like giving Tom Hanks a look like eat it.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
And it takes like 2 minutes for him to take a sardine, which is so nice. It's such like really drawing this joke out that I love.
But that is such a real thing where it's just like, just be nice.
Yes.
But she won't do it herself. She'll make him do it.
As someone who's been in that situation, I can tell you that shit happens, and it fucking sucks. But it's just entertaining to see it happen. But then eventually you meet the doctor, who comes up from the basement, and then conversation kind of gets a little bit more. So you see the head of the household, and he's very put together, funeral director like. And then Rumsfeld just starts going off. It's like, where are you keeping the body, Klopek?
I also love the part where he's just like picking at the wallpaper and he just straight up rips it.
Yes. It's tremendous. But eventually, like, Rumsfeld's going through the house. A dog comes, Ray says I have to go to the bathroom. A dog jumps out of the fucking door, and it's like a big-ass Doberman. And then you find Art's climbing over the fence, and they have a tripwire on their fence because of intruders. And Art's proving why they should have one.
Yeah.
And he falls.
Yeah, they're justified.
Yeah, and then the Doberman, like, runs outside. They all run outside to follow him. And... is it a burglar? No, it's Art. And you just see Carrie Fisher just like deadpan. She's like, no, it's Art. She's like, fucking idiot. What did I tell you? What did I tell you to do? And you couldn't even do that.
Yeah, Ruben also has a great line reading where the doctor's like, another neighbor? And then Ruben's like, a fat one. Love it.
Very straight to the point. They all awkwardly get the hell out of there. And then you see the two couples and Art all together. And like you can skip a lot of the beginning when it comes plot-wise to this movie, but you can't skip a lot of the middle. Because it's the setup for everything.
Well, it's like a classic mystery where like you need the little hints for it to be satisfying at all.
Absolutely. But I just love that Carrie Fisher's like, okay, voice of reason time. We went over there, we saw them, and Art somehow got back into the house with them to have this discussion, even though she clearly cannot stand him. And I just love that Ray is just silent. And they start fighting, and he's like, oh, Ray, awfully quiet up there. I love Rumsfeld. Yeah, awfully quiet up there. How about a little participation, Ray? And you're like they're trying to be like, hey, side with us, motherfucker. And in a really good twist, which I loved, I think they're clean. And both men are like, fuck you, dude. Like, how, like, you're with us, fuck you. And he's really smart, and he's just like, no, I think they're clean. I think Bonnie and Carol are right. And both men are just like, despondently like, fuck you. He's like, just let me talk 2-3 minutes to the boys in the den. And like, Carol thinks, all good, I got my husband back, no problems. And I love that, how long are you gonna have your balls in your wife's purse and be a man for once in your life? Like, all this kind of shit. Yeah. And he starts pulling something out of the bottom of his shorts, and they're like, Jesus Christ. And he's like, he pulls out Walter's wig. And I love how before they're like, what is that? Rumsfeld's like, you've had that in your trousers all day? He's like, it's Walter's wig. Well, yesterday, when we were in Walter's house, I slipped it through the mail slot. Where'd you get it today? over there, and he just goes. And it's really smart. He never gives any real details audibly, so even if the women are listening to him, they can't really understand what it is. Um, but he's just, I just love the conviction and the turn where he goes from I'm leaving them out to dry to like no, boys, we need to get them off our tail.
Yeah.
We were right, they were wrong. and and it's just
Which,
like
to be fair, I guess that's pretty strong circumstance.
yeah, it's strong enough for loonies.
Yeah.
It's strong enough for a Looney
Yeah,
Tune
true.
movie. I think the best thing is when you bring up the details that Joe Dante loves the Looney Tunes. There is so much Looney Tunes bullshit in this movie that I did not realize
Yeah.
because it's so departed from Looney Tunes visually that you're like when you first say that you're like what? But it's total Looney Tunes bullshit. I love it.
Yeah.
He's like, tomorrow I'm going around the fence and I'm not coming back until I find a dead body. It's like, okay, and they both slap him on the back. They're like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
we got him. But I just love it. As the movies continue and you're seeing one of the best physical comedy scenes is the next one. He gets rid of Carol, gets rid of his son. He's like, yeah, why don't you guys go away for the day? I'll be fine. I'll take care of stuff. And she's suspicious, but she does it because she thinks she's got him back on the right track. And then you see Rumsfeld, Ray, and Art are going to take out the power to the house of the neighbors.
Yeah. Well, just before that, you get Art in that golf outfit, which is just great.
I had to new golf. We're going to be doing that much golf, Carol.
Yeah.
See ya. And then the second she turns the corner, they're like, all right, back to the plan. It's tremendous. And their plan is to cut the power to the trip line to their neighbor's house. Somehow, Art has the blueprints of the neighborhood.
Maybe that's what he does. Maybe he's an electrician.
Who the fuck knows? It would make sense as to why he has a variable schedule. He doesn't have to go if he doesn't want to. You never know.
Or he's just a bum.
Or he's just a bum. I think it's the bum, but
Probably.
but I just love how he's just like, you sure he knows what he's doing? He's like, yeah, safety's my middle name. He's up on a ladder on a telephone pole and a power line. And I just love that again. And don't worry, safety's my middle name. He's just like, I thought his middle name was Lewis. Like, it's just so stupid and dry. Like,
Yeah.
and any other person says that line, you're like, what the fuck? But Tom Hanks says that line, you're like, okay, it's fun. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom Hanks, I mean, everything he does is just dry humor.
Yeah.
Like, he's great at delivering it.
Yes, absolutely. But he cuts the power line, but he like shocks himself, falls through the shed in Ray's house, or in Ray's backyard. Which I adored. And what I loved is he's got the fillings and they're hot. But they take out the tripwire. He's like, he actually hit the right wire. Yeah! I love that. Rumsfeld goes back to his house, and he's got a sniper rifle on top of his roof. Meanwhile, Ricky's got a party. The neighborhood kid, he's like, oh, shit's going down. I'm having a party to watch this.
Yeah, why does Rumsfeld need not only a rifle, but a loaded rifle?
Right.
Like, in what world is that needed?
It's not. That's why it's hilarious. And so they know their neighbors are gone, so they're going through. I love the next shot of you see them throwing supplies over the heart, but it's shot through the hole that's made through the shed, and you just see the human-sized hole.
Yeah, the human-shaped hole. It's pure Looney Tunes.
It's so stupid bullshit, but it's funny. It just works in the moment.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. But I love how he's like, Red Rover, send Ray on over. And then he jumps the fence. He's like, good. Red Rover, send Art on over. We got you now, Rube. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's so dumb. They're digging holes in the backyard. It's not working. There's another gag with the opening the door with the credit card. That's not working.
Well, The best gig in that is the where he pulls out his wallet and it's just 100%. It's just melted together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, there's no comment on it. It's just visual.
Just visual. Art's wallet is fried because he just got fried by a transformer.
Yeah.
I did love though when Ray tries to open the door with a credit card and it breaks in half. I just love that Art's just it's a shit store anyways.
Yeah.
Like, he has to comment. He has to comment. In a weird way, it does show why he's a friend. He's trying to comfort his friend, but it's just in such a shitty way. He can't comfort somebody without shitting on something else. Like he has to do both.
That's a real personality trait, though.
It is. It's very common. But I also love him laying by all the holes in the backyard. He's like, "Well, why don't you dig some holes of your own?" He's like, "Well, I was doing this and I was watching the walkie. Someone had to be by the walkie." Like it's like, you lazy fuck. And Rumsfeld's going back and forth with all the teenagers, and I adore it. But I did love the Ricky, get this lame-o out of your yard. Yeah, lame-o, get out of my yard. Get out of my yard, lame-o. Like him trying to.
It's a shame what happened to Corey Feldman because he has like real charisma in the 80s.
He has phenomenal charisma. It just oozes off the screen. Everything I've ever seen Corey Feldman in, I have liked. Everything.
Well, have you ever looked up nowadays what he's doing?
Not exactly, no.
It's not good, I'll tell you that.
Are we talking?
He does like weird like Michael Jackson singing and stuff, and he like dresses like Michael Jackson did in the 80s with like the leather jacket and stuff.
Yeah.
It is just
he was
so sad.
He was friends with Michael, but
yeah. Well,
no, it's just a very sad tale because I've legitimately liked Corey Feldman in everything I've ever seen him in.
Yeah, no, like in the 80s, he like a top 5 actor probably.
I mean, he's gold. I mean, he's gold in Goonies. He's gold in Lost Boys. He's gold in this. It's like, what can this kid not do? Well,
yeah, and in this, his role is so small, but he still is stealing scenes.
Yeah, he's very memorable. It's just like this kid's got charisma. This kid's got something. And so yeah, it's extremely sad that his career didn't continue further. He would have done so well in a Freaks and Geeks style era where like all those young actors got to do something to really foster their career. They took a small little lull as they grew into adulthood, and then they got to return. So you had that familiar feeling, but they got to go mature on their own and then go do something like a Seth Rogen and like all that crew.
I wish he was like a little more normal, because if like kind of like what Quentin Tarantino did for John Travolta.
Yeah.
Like he could have a great comeback if he was normal, but unfortunately he's just not.
He's not. Yeah, and it's just a sad state of affairs. I mean, more power to him to do whatever he wants to do in his life. He deserves that. Everybody hopefully deserves that in life, but it just sucks when you're like, man, your star was so bright.
Yeah, and he's in so many good movies in the 80s. He's in Chapter 4 of Friday the 13th. Great in that.
Stand By Me, he's great in that. He's great in all the stuff that he does. He's just, he's such a popular actor of the time, but he speaks to that. He speaks to the audience of the time really, really well.
Yeah.
And I do think he's a necessary piece, because if you look at it, you're like, well, what character lifts that? Well, it's the Ricky character. But I love the fact that he makes it essential to be there, because he gives you the, like, this is bullshit. Like, he just always is like, this is bullshit. But he thinks it's funny. He's just like, this is what a kid would think. But I also love, after the lame-o scene, you see Rumsfeld on his roof with the sniper rifle, and he's eating cookies. He's eating animal crackers out of the Barnum and Bailey animal cracker box. And he's got his little plastic cup and he's just like
Yeah, I love
another
that.
great visual scene, another really great visual joke. They eventually break into the house. They find this furnace. They're digging a giant hole in the ground because it's soft ground. They think they're burning bodies in this furnace that's like 5,000 degrees hot, kind of thing. It's just like all tremendous. And then the ending is all payoff. Great.
Well, also we got to mention Rumsfeld's pratfall. I mean, that's just great.
Well, I love the his rifle falls, and then he's trying to get it, and then he's like, "Yo, Rumsfeld!" Then he falls down. He falls on his back with a sniper rifle in his hand. He shoots out the glass window of a car.
It's a great song.
It's a great gag, and then all the kids that are slowly more and more are gathering at Ricky's house are like, "Yeah, it's awesome!"
Yeah,
Because they're just teens of the '80s. They're just like, "Whatever, man. Like, life sucks. We don't care. So whatever's fun is cool." But I do love the Klopeks with coppers. Like, it's like, how are you this tough ass army guy? But the second you see a cop, you're like, no. So like, Art's outside. He's telling Ricky's like, keep him busy. Keep him busy. I'll go get Ray. And he tries to run inside, and before he can, Ray like, he's just like, oh, I hit the gas line. Run. Art's like, it's gonna blow. The whole place explodes, which is tremendous.
yeah,
Just tremendous. The whole like the top weather vane falling into a vehicle, stabbing it. Chef's kiss, glory. Great visual gag. All the zoom ins on all the house, like of all the characters. Then the teens being like, that Ricky sure knows how to throw a party. Like, but I loved right beforehand. I always will, because I still say it without thinking about the Burbs. Is when they're like, oh, before the explosion happens, all the teens, oh, we're getting hungry. Like, we're gonna make a Mickey D's run. You want a quarter pound or something? Oh wait, guys, no, I called the pizza dude, and like they all lose their shit because like, yo, we have pizza. Like,
yeah, that is pure 90s or 80s.
I still, when we order pizza from time to time, just go, yo, I called the pizza dude, because it's just, it's just inburned in my brain. But I do have this note. After the house blows up and Tom Hanks walks out and he's just completely fucked up, but he's just slow walking, I literally wrote, blown up Tom Hanks walking out of the blown up house is the millennial existence. It's just like everything's on fire around you and you're just like, I'm good. Nonchalant, just like.
Just in shock.
Just total shock. And he's walking out of a home that's not his, that he just blew up, and he's just like.
Yeah, I wrote down, would the Klopeks still get insurance money for that? Even if they are murderers. They didn't blow up their house, someone else.
I had that exact same thought last night, because Ab was watching the movie sort of with me, and at the end she was really paying attention. Was, you have the cops there, the house is blown up, Ray's getting detained, and he has a nice moment with his wife. He finally sees reason again. But the whole time, you're like, this man just completed arson, breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, like van.
Oh, he's going to jail.
I just love destruction of public property, private property. Like, it just keeps rattling on and on and on. He's like, I really like what you did with your hair. It's a nice moment. But then when he gets in the ambulance after freaking out on Art, that Dr. Klopek comes into the ambulance with him and then reveals just out of nowhere, I'm a murderer. You're like, what?
Yeah, that part with the stretcher where he like chucks it in the back of the ambulance and he just goes and lays on it. I love that part.
That moment happened, and there are plenty of times that I'm just like, ugh, and I'll just like, for comedic effect, just lay face down on the couch or something. And I was like, and she's like, I guess we'll find you whatever ER you're in and go from there.
Yeah.
I was just like,
yeah.
I just turned to Ab and I was like, is that how you feel when I'm despondent? She's like, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. She's like, oh, I guess I'll just meet you at whatever hospital they take you. Okay.
Oh, okay, honey. Okay. Like, It's so ridiculous. But then Klopek comes in and tries to kill him, which is absurd. Because you have the whole thing on the ropes. It could be great comedy just being like, oh, wait, they were just idiots. They were just idiots the whole time.
I almost thought, like, while I was watching it yesterday, I was like, would that be a better ending almost?
There's an alternate ending. I just haven't watched it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So, because I have the DVD of it. So I pulled this out on DVD, of all things.
Yeah. Okay.
So, it's part of... I had it in the Tom Hanks 3-part collection.
I got this one.
Okay, so you have it on Blu-ray.
I'm seeing if it's included in this. Okay, it is included in this.
Yeah, so I have never watched it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Because I also think it could have just worked with them being a bunch of morons and him ending up in jail.
Yeah.
But then when Klopek comes in, he's like, I let you keep the femur, but I want my skull back. And he's like, the fuck you talking about? He tries to kill him. The stretcher comes out of the fucking thing. What is it? They're struggling in a stretcher. Courtney Gaines' character gets like thrown off. He drives an ambulance into Art's house, which is great.
Yeah.
The stretcher pops up and rolls out of the ambulance onto the street for like 3 houses and then crashes into a car.
Another Looney Tunes moment.
Another Looney Tunes bullshit moment. And he says like, citizens arrest! Citizens arrest! It's just so stupid.
That's definitely where I learned citizens arrest.
Oh yeah. And I just love, don't start with me, Carol. The man confessed. He murdered the naps. And he's like he's right back to being insane. And I just adore it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I just love there's no proof. And Corey Feldman's just like, do now. And like the whole back end of their car is just full of bones and dead bodies. And you're just like,
yeah.
Whoops. And I just loved all those little moments all coming together. And like everything's like, happily ever after this. Ray just walks away. But to finish your thought earlier, I definitely was like, even if they're murderers, they deserve to go to prison. Obviously, that's murder. No one's disputing that. But you can't just go into a house and blow it up and be like, yep.
Yeah.
All for the greater good. That's not how the law works.
Maybe in the 80s it did.
But I loved how he just gets to walk away scot-free. They're like, oh, yeah, he's totally justified. We have a murder case.
And then you get Art being interviewed on TV.
Yep.
Just soaking in the limelight.
Soaking it in. He's like, nutbags, we're not going to take it. We're out to get him. We're out to get him. And it's like, he's just soaking it up as the star as if he did really anything. All he did was cause trouble. He was right. That's correct.
That's true.
But all he really did was cause trouble, which I adore.
Yeah.
And I do love that the last gag of the whole movie is you see the ambulances crash through Art's house. He doesn't care at all. And then Rumsfeld's up with his wife. Also, another great visual gag with him taking out Courtney Gaines' character. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
But I just love Bonnie and Rumsfeld are together, and she's like, Art, your wife's home, and your house is on fire, and the only thing he cares about is, my wife is home? Like, what?
Yeah. Rumsfeld at the end also has... It's when Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher are walking, and then behind him, he just passes him. He goes, "We got him, neighbor." Because it's just like, okay, you pulled it off, but it was not looking good there for a while.
This is Bay of Pigs level stupid. Like, this is...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like,
that's a good way of putting it.
Like, this is like those that say we won Vietnam because of numbers, and you're like, no. Yes. Factually speaking, Vietnamese death to American death is 10-1 in favor of the U.S. So when you want to say mathematically America won Vietnam, sure. But it's completely wrong. It's completely wrong.
You fucked up royally and then got lucky.
Like, yeah. But you are so smart to point that out. to be like, oh, I just love, we got him, neighbor.
Because that's his character in one line, really.
Yeah, we did it. We did it. It's like don't think of any of the collateral damage. Don't think of anything else. It's just stupidity.
We succeeded.
Yeah, we succeeded with stupidity. No, I can't say enough about this movie. And then I also saw at the end, that this was only rated PG. There's no way in hell this movie should be rated PG. After a PG-13 rate is a by language alone, this should not be a PG movie.
Okay. Yeah, I never think of language because I was thinking like it's not nearly as dark as like Temple of Doom or anything.
No.
But in terms, I guess for language, yeah, it should be.
You have a lot of ridiculous humor. Plus, you're dealing with elements of death, so you're kind of like, eh.
Yeah, but it's all like fairly cartoony.
Yeah.
Like the skeletons at the end are like full blown just skeletons.
Yeah.
Like it's not dead bodies or anything.
Yeah. So it is interesting, but I had no idea how this thing got a PG rating. This had to be like at the end where they're like, we don't really need the PG-13. Like, it had to be like a inter-office politics kind of thing where they're just like, I don't think this is PG-13 worthy. You know, before they got to the point where almost everything's PG-13.
Well, the MPAA is bullshit to begin with, so.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that one. But that's a whole nother show.
I did a whole presentation about it in college.
Ooh. We doing a little PowerPoint night eventually?
Sure.
Dude, we'll do PowerPoint night.
I'll try to pull up my PowerPoint from that presentation.
Hell yeah. We love it. There's a great show on Dropout now where it's called Smarty Pants or Smarty Pants Society. But it's just PowerPoint night, but it's all comedic bullshit PowerPoints. Like one is what the opening PowerPoint is what cartoon characters would be invited to the cookout. Because they're black or they're black allies, even though they're not black characters, and it's tremendous.
Yeah.
But it's a great show. I highly recommend anyone should go check out Dropout in general because it's great. But yeah, I really don't have anything negative to say about this movie. I am biased. I understand. I love this movie, but there's no fat in this movie. There's nothing to really cut to be like, oh, that was kind of like, if it's not your comedic taste, it's not your comedic taste.
Yeah, I mean, comedy's subjective, so it's like, I could see how someone doesn't like kind of enjoy darkish humor.
Yeah.
But it's really light in terms of overall tone. It's not like
it's never serious.
Evil Dead 2 or anything.
No, it's not Evil Dead 2 at all. This is incredibly different, and it's more impressive to me that this was done during a writer's strike, because the writing's good. It feels very much like it was we're gonna do one take because that's all we need. We're gonna do this because it's all we need. Like when we got it, we got it. This movie's efficient. It's very smart in what it's doing. It understands what it's doing. If it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. But it's such an efficient movie. Great use of music. Great use of imagery. Great use of lighting all the time, and using physical comedy to your advantage. So then when you do use just dialogue-based humor, it works really well. It's so well done. I can't really shit on this movie. I really can't.
No, it's definitely a good movie. Like, I think if you're into comedy, you'll most likely enjoy it. If you're into horror movies, you'll probably enjoy that many good horror comedies out there.
Yeah.
So, like, this is like a good classic one.
Yeah, it's very much comedy with horror. It's not a horror comedy, but it's a fun way to dip your toe into it. It's a fun way to be like, okay, let's find this, let's find that. It's very. And
if you're a parent who has 10-year-old kids, it's a perfect movie for that.
Yeah, because it's nothing crazy. It's nothing. No one's getting murdered. There's no muck duck in this. Yeah. It's just straightforward, to the point, easy to watch. I would highly recommend this movie to anybody, frankly. But it's just so it's a great way to look at. I hate when it's always they don't make movies like they used to. They make great movies all the time. But this is a great thing. This is the kind of movie that you'd never ever be assigned in a film class for college or film school. But this is a movie you could learn from. Because it knows what it is. It's extremely self-aware. It's not trying to be an Oscar winner. It's not trying to be more than what the goal is. The goal is to get people to laugh and to serve its story. That's it. And you can learn from that, because if your mission is, I want to make people laugh, then do that. Don't say, well, we're going to make people laugh, and we're going to speak to this larger issue, and we're going to do this, and we're going to... It's like, no. The goal is to make people laugh. Make them laugh.
Yeah, not all movies have to be art.
And I think... And that's the word... The worst part is when you use the art word. So many people start freaking out, like, oh, what? All film is art. Every film, even if bad, is a piece of art. Just like a painting, or just like a drawing, or a movie, or a TV
unless
show.
It's Madam Web.
Unless it's Madam Web. That was just trash. That was product placement wrapped up in a movie. But
a Pepsi commercial with stuff around it.
That was just a 2-hour plus Pepsi commercial. Because you know who's the most reliable superhero in that movie? Pepsi Cola. However, it was certainly something in which you can learn from, because the goal is the goal. Don't try to meander and do other things. Everything is a piece of art. Your art will be better if you just focus on what your goal is versus trying to answer to 5 different masters. That's when things go south. Well, do you remember 2009? It was Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen, the Judd Apatow movie, Funny People.
Funny People, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember being really excited to go to that movie. And we went, and I was kind of like, it's fine.
That has a lot more inconsistency. Though, this is a very specific tone.
Yeah, but it's
always going to help.
Always, that's very true, but I appreciated the fact that it wasn't trying... Funny People was trying to be both a drama and tell this really compelling, heartfelt story, while also having this, really raunchy humor that just doesn't work for what they're telling.
Yeah. They wanted to be taken serious, but also that those filmmakers are not the people.
And if they are, then you have to change your goals. You have to change what you're trying to do. You have to fit. It's no different than if you're playing sports. You go against the defense that you're going against. You don't get to just say, well, we run this. Well, what happens if they stop that every time? You don't keep running the same play. Yeah. You change the play to what they're not good at defending. It's not that difficult. I'm not saying it's that easy in football either, but in terms of goal orientation, that's what you need to do. If this is the goal, we go towards the goal. We don't go towards, this is what we do, but we're also going to do this, this, and this now. You're like, no. Figure out what your goal is, what your story is, and then go from there. And that's what I really appreciate about a movie like this, is it's incredibly self-aware and knows what it is. It's a grown-up horror comedy Looney Tunes movie. That's it.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
And it's highly recommendable to anybody. It's just going to be fun.
Do we have questions at the end of these episodes?
Not really. I think it's just, would you recommend watching this to somebody?
Yeah. I would say, especially if you're a teenager, I think you'll really enjoy it.
I also think that this is a movie... One thing I really do appreciate about this, it has a little bit of what I really appreciate about Seinfeld in it. When you go back and look at Seinfeld, the pop culture they reference is all very of the time. But the issues and the story and the plot, for the most part, don't revolve around something that is stuck in its own time. They're universal society things, right? Although this is set in the 80s, and it's clearly very 80s, outside of the little pieces of technology that you see, there is no interdependency on you have to know that time to really like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not referencing things that are completely out of date now.
Yeah, it's very much just straightforward. It's a good comedy that can be shown. It's a timeless comedy because of the structure that they put it in. It wasn't too referential. It was just,
Yeah.
this is the story that we're telling.
And maybe that's why it's kind of more popular than it was when it first came out. That might be part of the reason, is because it is more timeless. Something that is completely referencing, stuff that's modern is always going to be outdated in 3 years.
3 years,
Like
5 years, 10 years,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, the perfect example of that is like all those scary movies, those spook movies. Like those are always outdated in less than 5 years.
Oh, I mean, they don't age well. But yeah, it's very much like, oh, this, that, this, and you're like, not so much.
What's his name is in the first one? Rick Dukeman. He's in the first scary movie.
Nice.
And he's actually really funny in it. Actually, I will give him that.
I did look at his credits yesterday when I was like, what else has he been in? Because there's not much that I've seen with him in, but I love him in the Burbs, so it's great.
He has a great line in the first one where he's like clearly an underground drug dealer and he's a dad.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, it's a scream rip. There's a bunch of murders taking place in the house.
Yeah.
And the cops come, and he goes, "Yeah, and the sick bastards, they hid drugs all over the house." It's great.
It's so dumb, and it's a good state of affairs when your movie ages as well as this one does. Like, why the fuck is the Burbs on Blu-ray? Think about that. Why the fuck is the Burbs on Blu-ray?
That's not as impressive as you would think. There's a lot of shit on Blu-ray.
Well, I know that, but it still speaks to, you have to pass the initial test of, was this even worthwhile in some way, shape, or form to do? And A, at least achieves that. And then B, the fact that it is something that people get excited about when it's on a streaming service. Like, oh, I'd watch that.
Well, that's like a weird thing about this movie is like, it is rarely on streaming. It's really hard to find.
Yeah. No,
which is, I think, which could be a problem if you're actually interested in watching it.
I mean, that's the other thing is we're now in a world where even I'm the same way. I'm just like, $4. $4 for a rental on Amazon. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Or your $7 from Madam Web. That was brutal.
Yeah, but I was buying it.
That's a worse problem to have, frankly.
Yeah.
In the internet, there's an electronic record that at one time you purchased Madam Web, and that
I know.
That's a shame that can't be outdone.
Yeah, and I get like recommendations because
exactly can't be done. Can't be done. You can't do it. Can't do it. Oh god, but this is a fun show. I enjoyed this one. Do you have a choice for a cult classic next time?
Ooh, we already decided Monty Python and Holy Grail.
Yes. So we're gonna be doing that one. That debut episode is gonna come out as long as nothing goes awry, which is a real problem in this next coming month with my schedule. However, that'll come out September 7th. We're gonna do Monty Python on September 7th show. But we got next episode. We are gonna be doing a new thing for the show. We are watching Batman vs. Superman. But we're going to try to fix it by just talking about it, which is going to be really fun. I think the only thing, just to make sure I am coherent, I'm not going to be taking notes on what I would do. I'm just going to be taking notes of this happens here, this happens here, this happens here.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking any notes like, what if we did this, what if we did that? Because that's not the show then.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we both need to rewatch it.
Yeah, and I can't do my usual just skim through and watch the Batman scenes. I'm going to have to watch the whole thing. It's going to be...
Yeah.
Because at least the Batman scenes, when you're not really like... When you're not looking for Martha and you're just looking for badass shit, the Batman scenes work. They're brutal, and he's right on the verge of killing a lot of people without killing them.
Oh, he killed him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. There's a great series. There's a trauma surgeon on YouTube who he'll go through like famous action scenes and be like, how many deaths are
Oh,
actually in it?
yeah.
And
I've seen that. Yeah.
he does the Batman, he does the Ben Affleck Batman like warehouse scene. And he's just like, that guy's dead 7 times over. That guy's dead 5
Yeah.
times. It's just like murder, 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 like the whole thing.
Yeah, that'll definitely be one aspect of our talk.
Oh, that'll be a huge aspect of our talk. But next episode of the ONETA Movie Show, we are going to be fixing Batman versus Superman, which is going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. After that, we're going to be watching The Dark Knight as part of our big box office series. Then we're going to do a fun little crossover episode, little different stuff with a top 5, which is going to be real fun. But those are our next couple episodes. If you do want to support us in any way, shape, or form, first thing you could do for me, head on over to our Etsy shop. You can go over to ptecreative.etsy.com. You can find a bunch of cool stuff, all regarding the shows that we do over at PT Creative. Fun stickers, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, all kinds of fun stuff. Go check it out over at ptecreative.etsy.com. Otherwise, another thing you could do, because it'd be really appreciated over here for us, give us a like, give us a comment, a subscriber would be cool. Even if you think we're a bunch of idiots and you want to troll us, like we got because of our Lisa Frankenstein episode. Well done again on that one.
It's pretty impressive that we got Cole Sprouse' best friend to be a fan or a troll. Like, we got one thing going for us now.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you want to troll us, have fun. We don't care. Like, comment, subscribe, however you want to feel. I would suggest do it within YouTube guidelines, because if I look and half the comments you leave get stripped because of YouTube guidelines, I didn't touch them. But half the YouTube came in and they're like, hey, you got to be a lot more civil, which was really fun. So if you want to do something for us, like, comment, subscribe, share this wherever you can. Check clips of this out on YouTube or our socials, which is a really fun way to stay in touch with us over on Instagram and TikTok. Go check out our other podcasts available here on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you can. But most importantly, enjoy your day and go watch a good movie. And remember, Satan is good. Satan is our pal. Peace out, friends. Bye!